This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest.
Hey, this is Christian Roldan.
And Jordan Morris from the Seattle Sounders Football Club.
And you're listening to
This is Nos Arietes. Thanks to Watson's Counter for sponsoring this episode. Located in Ballard, Watson's Counter is your neighborhood specialty coffee shop, brunch spot, and now coffee roaster. Sourcing exclusively high-scoring coffees, Watson's Counter has started their coffee roasting project to showcase amazing coffees grown around the world. Their first featured coffee is the beautifully complex washed Ethiopian Odola. Follow them on Instagram at Watson's Counter to keep up with all the upcoming releases, or check out their website at www.watsonscounter.com. Whether you want to stop by for your daily coffee to go or sit down for delicious Korean-inspired brunch, Watson's Counter has got you covered. Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes, sponsored by Watson's Counter and Full Pull Wines, as well as our Substack subscribers. I am Jeremiah Shan. Joining me today is two people I am excited to have on, representing Ballard FC, who are hosting a USL2 playoff game, or potentially two playoff games coming up this weekend. Sam Zisette, who is the co-founder and the GM, as well as Lamar Neagle, who I assume you would know from his Sounders days, but is also a co-founder of Ballard FC. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So let's get this out of the way first, and we can kind of backfill the story a little bit. But you guys are coming off, or in the middle still, of a very impressive season. You went 10-1-1 in league play. You head into the playoffs, having topped your division in USL League 2. So explain to me where we're going from here and what's going on.
Yeah, so we start our USL League 2 playoff run this upcoming Friday. So it starts with the Western Conference quarterfinals. So if anyone remembers from last year, we had a similar story of getting into playoffs this year. Winning the division was an awesome achievement for us that we didn't do last year. But so we'll host the Western Conference quarterfinals and semifinals at Interbase Stadium. Two teams will play on Friday afternoon. We will play on Friday evening, both games at Interbase Stadium. The winners of those two matches will play on Sunday afternoon at Interbase Stadium in that Western Conference semifinal.
And then are tickets still available for these games?
They are indeed. Probably won't last the whole week, but they are available currently.
And so we may as well start there. So this has been a pretty impressive season from really any way you cut it. You came onto the scene last year. I'm not sure how many people really knew what Ballard FC was, or what USL League 2 was, for that matter. But you guys drew really good crowds. Everyone I talked to said going to games is a ton of fun. But then I think maybe more impressively, you backed it up with it seems like even more excitement, and even more like was the attendance even better this year? It seemed like every game I saw was a sellout, it seemed.
Yeah, attendance was better this year, and I think that's one of the biggest things for us as a group trying to run this, is like really creating a family atmosphere and really creating a community event that people want to go to. Right, that's a big draw that I think both of us realized what we wanted from this kind of venture from the beginning. So it's been amazing to see the numbers swell and people start to understand, like Sam said, maybe last year not knowing, but now maybe recognizing the brand, maybe having somebody that had gone to a game and that could actually tell the experience. So yeah, each event we're trying to create something special so that we got people coming back.
And so how would you describe a match at Ballard FC?
Yeah, that's I guess for everybody it's probably a little bit different. For me, it's different than somebody that's going with just some buddies that enjoy the brewery kind of lifestyle and are in the beer garden. I have kids, but the kids end up loving it. There's always a ton of action. You're close to the field, so it feels like you're right on top of it. We have little games for the kids, so they're always running around. It really just feels like a community event that ended up being based around a soccer team, and the soccer team ends up doing pretty well last year and this year. That's from my perspective. I know for Sam, it's probably different.
Yeah, I think, we've tried to maximize both the family experience, but also the kind of younger professional or any people of all ages, but just like the kind of fun community event atmosphere. So, the beer garden is obviously a major draw for folks. So being able to, watch the match, like Lamar said, from 5 feet away from the sideline with a cold beer is, definitely a major draw, but also the family-friendly environment, affordable, accessible tickets right in the heart of the city. You feel like you're in the neighborhood when you're at the stadium is a big draw. We also work hard to kind of like maximize the entertainment value beyond just the soccer side. So, a fun halftime show, pieces before the game. Like oftentimes we'll have a live band performance. We have music playing. We put, cornhole and games and different pieces around the stadium. So we try to put a lot more into it than just the game, but it also helps that we do have a really good team and it's a really entertaining brand of soccer. It's not all too different from the MLS level. Obviously, the players are much younger. I think that lends itself to kind of a faster game in some ways. The pressing, the players really want to press hard. So there's a pretty high intensity to the match, especially during playoffs. So it's a really fun, high quality brand of soccer that definitely draws people in. And yeah, us having a very successful season, people like to see goals, especially down at the beer garden end. So when we can score a couple there, it's, a guarantee for a good time.
Yeah, I can imagine, Seattle soccer fans lately haven't got to see a whole lot of goals at home games. So at least someone in town is scoring these days. But let's go back even farther. I am realizing that a lot of people might not even know what Ballard FC is. You guys were founded, or your first year was last year. I think that's when you were founded as well. But what was the genesis of this, and how would you describe USL League 2 and sort of like the place in the market that Ballard FC occupies?
Yeah, I can start with that one. So Lamar and I, everybody knows the level that Lamar played at. I like to joke that the highest level I played at is the lowest level Lamar played at. But we got to know each other playing together at the Tacoma Stars. And, both shared a similar vision for community and soccer, and particularly like player development. So Ballard FC first was started with the idea of player development and needing a club in Seattle to support our players who were right on the cusp of becoming professionals, young players where these 3 months of their development are crucial, right? Heading into whether it's their fall college season or maybe they're, just right on the cusp of signing that pro contract, right? And so we wanted to start a club that was kind of player first and driven by filling a development pathway that was necessary for that type of player, but also creating a community atmosphere and experience of, something that is both affordable, accessible, and a lot of fun. And so Lamar and I, started working on this, and then we're introduced to our third co-founder, Chris, and the three of us really just got working on it every day and worked with the league and started the club. And I don't think we expected it to have the type of response, as big and as fast as it was, but it was really amazing to see the community get super pumped about this and rally around it. And really, after we kind of started, it really became kind of a community driven project where we were really responding to what the community wanted to see from this club and what the players wanted from this club. And, while we had a vision and an idea for it, it's really been a lot more than just the three of us, putting something together. It's really been a community driven experience that has been a lot of fun, and we're continuing to try new things and learn all the time. But yeah, the genesis really started with trying to create a club for players that are right on that cusp of being pros to develop to, be the best they can be. And hopefully sign that pro contract and then, make as fun and accessible of experience for fans as we could.
Yeah, and so just to follow up on that, this is basically the same level that the Sounders U23s were playing at. I don't know that they were ever playing in USL League 2, but it was that was the PDL essentially, and this is essentially the same level, correct? Is that?
It's not only the same level, it's the exact same league. So the PDL was part of USL, and they just renamed the league from PDL to USL League 2. So it is the same exact league, just it went under a rebrand a handful of years ago.
Yeah, and this was
go ahead.
And this was just to like reiterate the level. Like, so I ended up playing for the Des Moines Menace when I was in college because I wanted to play at this level. My freshman year, as soon as the fall got over, I knew that I wanted to play pro and that I was serious about it. And so you immediately have to get as many games, play against the best competition as you can. And I would have loved to have come home and do that, but there wasn't a team in Seattle kind of at that level at the time. And so I went, across the country to find a team that I could play for. And so to be able to bring a team at that level with the amount of talent that we have in this area, we knew, it would be competitive across the country because guys would want to come home and play in front of a big crowd, in front of family and friends, instead of traveling, across the country to find a team.
And so these are mostly players who are in college or just right out of college. Is that right?
Mostly, yeah. Sam keeps trying to get me to put a jersey on, but keeping it the younger guys for sure.
And is it all amateur, or is it just is it team by team that's professional or amateur?
It's all amateur, so that's both a league requirement that all teams have to be full amateur status, but it's mostly driven by NCAA rule, right? That you cannot pay players to play the game if they're in college.
So let's talk a little bit about the player pool that you're drawing from. If you look at the roster and you're familiar with the Seattle soccer scene, you probably vaguely recognize quite a few of these guys. But who are some of your top players, and where are you drawing players from? What would you say is the kind of the general profile?
So the majority of our players are from Seattle originally, but that's certainly not all. We've been drawing some players from both, college players from different states, but also just drawing players from around the country who are, outside of the college scene as well. But, starting with that kind of like bulk of our roster, which are players who, grew up in Seattle and are currently playing in college. Some play for local schools like University of Washington, Seattle U. And then some players are from Seattle, but have gone to play for other colleges like University of Pennsylvania and others. So we have, a lot of, former Sounders Academy players who are now playing in college and will come play for us for the summer. And then we have some players who are, on a different path where they've graduated or, haven't gone through the college route, who are, on the cusp and working towards being professional players who, have gone just on a slightly different pathway or are outside of college and still working to find that pro contract. But the majority of our players are going to be kind of through the college system, and that this is their kind of in between seasons club that they can play for to keep developing.
And so you are carrying the title of GM. How much of that is recruiting?
Very little. I joke all the time that my title is very deceptive and probably needs to be changed at some point pretty soon. A lot of the recruiting is done by the coaching staff. Lamar and I do a little bit, but the coaches really drive recruiting. My role is really mostly about running the business and the day-to-day and the operations of it all. But Lamar and I both have a lot of fun with the recruiting. It's a pretty rewarding experience to find a player who we think would be a really good fit, talk to them, bring them in, and then see them have a great experience is a really, really rewarding thing for us. So I try to spend as much time as I can recruiting, but oftentimes that's very little because there's a lot of other important work to be doing.
So you mentioned the coaching staff. You guys had a change in coaches, I think basically mid-season, right? Or recently. What was that process like, and what's the current status of the coaching staff?
Yeah, so just like it is for our players, Ballard FC is and will always be that stepping stone club, right? Or I should say, clubs at the USL League 2 level are always stepping stone clubs, and that's true for players as it is for staff. We had front office staff who, we had a staff member last year who's now working for the MLS. He's moved to New York City and he's working for the league at the league office level. And we encourage that and support that. And we actually take a lot of pride in that we can see players move on to the next level, coaches and staff. And so, Jason Farrell, our head coach from last year and through the majority of this year, was offered, a different opportunity. And that was something that, the timing of it, of course, we wouldn't want it to happen during the season. It's not what our preference would be, but we understand that's the reality of it. And again, we're kind of excited that we get to be a club that does promote people onto the next level and to great opportunities for them. And so Jason stepped away for a new opportunity. And then one of our assistant coaches, Ethan O'Neill, who just today was in the ECNL national final with one of his Seattle United clubs, actually, has taken over as interim head coach, and he's doing a fantastic job, tremendous job. First 2 games, 2 league wins against very tough opponents. He's been awesome. And we have a great support staff around him as well, with assistant coaches Amadou Sanyang, who played for the Sounders, and Ben Willis, another assistant coach. And so, we have a fantastic staff beyond just Ethan who are supporting. And really, this isn't, I know Lamar would say it's a player-driven club, really, right? So there's a great team culture through the players and the leaders on the team. So, the coaches are facilitating it all and putting it together, but there's a lot of culture within the players that are really driving this thing forward.
And so, what are the aspirations of Ballard FC? Is it to stay at League 2 and sort of just see how this goes, or is there other things out there that you guys are sort of have your eye on?
Yeah, I mean, I'll chime in and Sam can give his opinion as well. We've talked a lot about that. Like we said, when we first started this, we didn't think that it would be as big and get the reception that we actually got. So this question has popped up probably a lot sooner than any of us would have thought. Is what are the aspirations? What do you guys want to do? What could you do? That's still a very good question. What could we do? There's a lot of different angles we could go, but I think for me, it keeps going back to the why we created the club. And we created the club in order to be, like Sam was saying, kind of a stepping stone developmental club. And I think once you start to change that, you start to change a lot of things about the organization, and you have to be careful with that. And we're still only the second year in. We've seen some success, but I think we want to see, a lot more. But we're always open to looking towards the future and seeing what's out there. But that's a question that we kind of answer daily, and we take kind of year by year right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it's a pretty significant step from where you are to, I mean, I suppose the next progressive level would be USL League 1, but that's a pretty monumental step to go from really a hyper regional league where you have, you're only operating for 3 months. Essentially, you have games 3 or 4 months a year, to something that is like League 1 operates like a fully professional, full season national league.
Yeah, like that change from USL 1 to USL Championship probably isn't as big, right? But
I would think it's relatively small compared to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, in a way, I would think it's almost big to like conceptualize it. It's probably a bigger move to go from USL League 2 to USL League 1 than it would be to go from USL Championship to MLS. In terms of it just being a totally different beast, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. You're not just changing the scale, right? You're changing
the whole model.
Operations, the whole model is absolutely different. I'll let Sam give his opinion on that if you got to add anything.
I don't really have much to add. I think that's it, right? Like, of course, you've got to, keep eyes on the future and how the American soccer landscape might change as well. If we asked this question 6, 7, 8 years ago, there wasn't a USL League One. There wasn't,
Right.
the landscape's changing all the time, and we've got to be able to be, nimble and keep up with those changes. But honestly, for us, if in 10 years we are selling out Interbay Stadium, for our USL League Two team, continuing to win, Northwest Division titles and competing in the playoffs, that is a massive success, because what we know about soccer at this level is not many teams can do it for a very long time. And I was part of a club, that was an awesome legacy club in this country that unfortunately folded. And so for us, we are trying to build something consistent that can stand the test of time. So one day I can take my kids to a Ballard FC game, and, in 15, 20, 30 years down the line, we have people who've multi-generational Ballard FC fans. That is really at the core of what we want to build with this, and not trying to do too much too soon and lose sight on why we started the club in the first place. So to me and to us, longevity and consistency is really the number one goal. And if we can do that, we've succeeded. It's not always about getting to the biggest and highest level. To me, it's about, can you do what you're doing at a good level, for a very long time? I don't think, that we should lose sight on that. And I know that's what we're all, keeping our eyes focused on, is that consistency over time.
Yeah. And just to say this, like I've been here for close to 15 years, and even in my time, I've seen a lot of teams that have played at this level and just kind of come and gone. And it's because it's a really hard, like, to even have the amount of success you guys have had through 2 years, I think is pretty amazing. Just that you're drawing, 1,500 people on a regular basis to Interbay Stadium, which I think is just a great little, I don't know how many, I'm imagining a lot of people don't really even know what Interbay Stadium is, because you can drive past, you can, drive down, what is the name of the main drag that, Interbay, and you can drive down Interbay and you would never see the stadium. You can even go into Magnolia and you would basically easily miss that there is a soccer stadium there. Can you just kind of describe the Interbay Stadium experience just real quickly?
Yeah, I love talking about Interbay. It is just a little hidden gem in our city. It's a soccer-specific stadium as well, which is very rare, as we know, in American soccer in general, but specifically at this level, where a lot of teams are playing on, high school football stadiums and such. It's a beautiful stadium. It's an awesome capacity and size, and being soccer-specific. Right tucked away on the north side of the Interbay golf course, the driving range. So, every so often we will find a golf ball on the pitch, or someone on the 8th tee at the Interbay 9-hole will watch the game, which I think is probably the best seat in the house if you just book a tee time right before our kickoff. But it's an amazing stadium, and everyone descends upon Interbay Stadium right before kickoff and fills in. And, it's just a really intimate, awesome viewing experience for a soccer game. You can't find a seat in the stadium or a spot in the beer garden that's not within 30 feet of the sideline, which I think makes it really unique and fun. You got a lot of great local businesses around. Our supporters group, they call themselves the Bridge Keepers, will do their pre-funk at a bar called Milady's just up the hill, and they'll take over Dravis Street and walk down, do their march to the match, taking over one of our busier streets in the neighborhood. So it's an awesome location for us. We really love it. It's just over the Ballard Bridge as well. So it's a pretty great experience for sure.
Yeah, and a place that has some history too. The Sounders, I have played some Open Cup games there, and it's just like a fun little gem in the Seattle soccer community that I don't. If you play soccer, I'm sure you know of it, but if you don't play soccer, it's pretty easy one to miss. That said, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the idea of the Seattle Center. This new Memorial Stadium is getting redesigned. Is there, like, do you guys look at that and say, like, maybe someday that would make sense for us, or is that too far away from the home?
Go ahead, Sam.
You guys are just jumping on that one.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's obviously going to be amazing to see Memorial Stadium rebuilt. I played some of my Ballard High School soccer games there. I should also mention I was in the Ballard High School marching band, so I had some great homecoming shows on that field. But obviously, amazing location, really, really awesome to see what the plans for the project are. How it impacts us, I'm not sure. We like I just gushed about Interbay Stadium for 10 minutes there. Like, it is such a perfect stadium for us, so it's hard to imagine leaving. But like what we talked about before, we aren't, we are like kind of a never say never crew, and we keep our eyes open on all things, but we keep our feet on the ground. And so I think we can kind of walk and chew gum at the same time, and keep our eyes open and ears open to opportunities, but also just try and do the best job we can with what we have right now, which is a really awesome thing going. 1,500 people consistently at Interbay Stadium doesn't need changing, doesn't need fixing. And so it's a balance. We're not going to just shut our ears to a cool opportunity like that, but it's hard to say, why or if we would leave Interbay, because it's just such a cool space for us.
So go ahead, Lamar.
I was just gonna say it's got to fit, right? Sam and I have had conversations about this. I was a ball boy at Memorial Stadium, so to then have a team that's playing in there, it's going to be amazing. Regardless, it's been needed to be renovated for a long time. So to see
about 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So like to see a soccer team in there, whether it's the women's or men's team, like it'd just be an awesome experience. And if we could be a part of that, that'd be cool. But it also, like Sam said, it has to fit and has to be right for us. The same as, moving up a league, it has to fit and it has to be right for us. We're not going to jump just because we can, if it's not the right step for us.
So one more cart before the horse type of question. What is the process if you guys were to get into the U.S. Open Cup? What's that process look like? And is there a possibility of a future Ballard FC Sounders match for real stakes?
So we had 2 on-field goals when we set out to start Ballard FC. One was to win a USL League 2 national championship at some point. And the other was to qualify and compete in the US Open Cup. The way the process works is US Soccer determines how many teams from USL League 2 will get to qualify. And then it's up to USL League 2 to allocate those spots. And that happens, later this year, I think towards November or December. The USL has already determined their process, which is they take all of the the divisional champions, and then they rank them based on points per game. And then they'll allocate spots based on that order. So we just finished the season as a divisional champion, and we're ranked 5th on points per game. Historically, USL League 2 has been given anywhere from 9 to 12 spots. So if we're looking at history and using that as a gauge, obviously this hasn't been determined yet, and we're not putting the cart before the horse. But if we're using how the league and U.S. Soccer has done this process for years, we will have qualified for next year's U.S. Open Cup. Again, processes and systems change year to year. As we know, in this American soccer landscape, things can change all the time. And so while nothing is guaranteed, all signs are pointing pretty positive towards us being able to compete in next year's U.S. Open Cup, which is very exciting if that were to come to fruition.
And then, so the U.S. Open, the part where the League 2 teams would enter the tournament is before your season would normally start. Is that right?
Yeah, the first round traditionally has always occurred at the end of March for the U.S. Open Cup.
And so then what would you guys just basically have to throw, like, how would that work? Are these things that am I getting way far ahead of myself at this point?
No, I love nerding out about this every day. This is great. The NCAA just changed their rules last year to allow college players to be able to play in their seasons. So forever the rules were if you were in college, the NCAA, you weren't allowed to participate in what was called outside competition. So anything that wasn't your college team. But that was just changed last year. Obviously the colleges have to, like the college coaches have to approve it and be okay with it, which that might be a big challenge for them in their busy spring seasons. So there's going to be a balance, I believe, and we'll learn a lot more, over the coming months about this process. But there's a good chance that we could have, a decent amount of our current players, with us. But we definitely will have to draw players from outside. I've already told Lamar he better start, training now because he's leading the line for us, come March for that first round match for sure.
I think after watching the TST and watching all the guys that are retired play, I think I could get a few guys interested in joining up, especially in the area. So we might have to look at that if the time comes.
Brad looks like he's still in playing shape.
Yeah, Brad's a perfect example, man. Could have a almost an alumni squad. Ballard.
There you go. So, and then I realize this is like we're ahead of ourselves here, but then how many games would it take? Like normally, I know they'd even set the whole field for the U.S. Open Cup, so we are very much talking about hypotheticals. But how many games theoretically would you be away from a potential like playing an MLS team?
So yeah, again, just going off of kind of historical how it's always worked because we don't know what next year's is going to be like. The MLS teams enter in the third round typically. So in the last few years, the Sounders have come in at the third round. So typically the first game for amateur teams like us would be against another, amateur team, a local, it would be as local as possible. And then the second round is where USL Championship and USL League One teams enter. So, it would be a match against a professional team, likely on the road at their place, which would be a very challenging game to go and win, whether that's going to Sacramento Republic or Oakland Roots or San Diego Loyal, that or potentially Spokane if they enter into the U.S. Open Cup. I think their USL League One team would. So that's where the second round would be. And then potentially as early as the third round would be where the Sounders would enter. And that's where that match could take place.
Yeah. And in case people were wondering, the last time the closest thing to something like this happening was 2014. Was that right? When the Sounders played Kitsap?
It was 2016, and I was
2016.
I was a player for the Kitsap Pumas that year, although I was very much a bench warmer. I never saw any meaningful game time in that season. So,
and that even Kitsap was kind of like a like they actually had professional players, right?
They were the last team to be able to have paid players on their roster before the league changed their rules to do away with that.
That was the game Zach Scott and his brother Daniel Scott played against each other.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. That was a fun one. If I remember correctly, it was the goalkeeper for Kitsap was. Why am I blanking on his name now? He was a Sounders player, right? Wasn't it? Oh man, he was a backup for a long time.
Was it Islander?
No, it was the. This makes for great radio. He ended up getting. He eventually the last team he played for, I think, was Miami. He was playing. If I remember, am I totally making this up? I'll have to go back and I'll put it in the show notes. It doesn't matter. But anyway, this is I just love this idea of the. I would love I think everyone loves the idea of the Sounders maybe traveling to Interbay Stadium and playing a game against Ballard FC in a real competitive match. It sounds like that's the stuff that the U.S. Open Cup is all about. But now that we are through all the hypotheticals, let's do one more plug about what you guys got going on this weekend. Where can people get tickets? And what's how does this process work? Yeah,
so if you go to goballardfc.com /playoffs. We've got the playoff schedule, tickets available, information about the whole weekend. So that's just goballardfc.com/playoffs. And that's where we got all the information there.
And then are you guys already selling season tickets for next year?
Not yet. No, that information will be coming out probably in a couple months. But for now, yeah, our last tickets we'll have available here are for this upcoming weekend. So it's a short season and a long off season. So
yeah, that's the thing that I keep saying I want to go out to a game. I want to go out to a game. And then I'm like, oh, the season's over. But one of these days I'm going to get out there. It seems like a ton of fun. You guys have put together a pretty amazing project out there, and it's been really exciting to see it evolve and see it change and see you guys growing the way that you're growing. So congratulations on everything, and hopefully you guys got a few more games in you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
Yep. Thank you. I am Jeremiah Shan signing off for Sam and Lamar. This is Nos Arietes, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for listening to another episode of Nos Arietes. As you may know, we are transitioning to becoming a primarily listener-supported podcast. One of the perks of becoming a paid subscriber is getting the full version of interview episodes like this one. If you're interested in hearing the rest of the interview and supporting independent soccer media, head over to nosarietes.substack.com and become a paid subscriber.